learning to fly gliders sucks. I mean, it's just the worst. Now, flying gliders is awesome. It is the most fun you will ever have in the air. You will be at one with nature, and it is magical. But learning to fly gliders sucks. And it all goes back to this book here, the Soaring Flight Manual. You see, what happens is when you go to fly gliders, the learning to fly part is awesome. You go out, you learn it, and as long as you keep at it, you will learn it. But all the other knowledge, all the theoretical, all of the prep work that you're supposed to be doing that would actually aid in your learning process is done in a terrible way for gliders. When you go to start flying gliders, you are going to get a copy of the Glider Flying Handbook. And this is the original version that the FAA put out just after, this is from the year 2003, okay? I've got like every single version. And what happened is people were flying gliders before the FAA came out with a handbook. And what it was is the SSA, the Soaring Society of America, created a very good manual called the Soaring Flight Manual. So good that the FAA referenced this document and would say, use the Soaring Flight Manual to answer your questions. Well, FAA was testing people on documents and instructions that the FAA didn't control. And so you had FAA examiners who are giving you check rides and they're asking you questions about things the FAA doesn't really have control over. And that's kind of not fair to you learning it. So the FAA said, well, we're going to create our own manual. This book was produced for like 30 years, from the 70s, like all the way up to like 2000-ish, okay? Great book, okay? And so the FAA created their own version, the Glider Flying Handbook, as they created with all the handbook series for everything from helicopters and airplanes to balloons, everything, okay? The problem is when they went from the Soaring Flight Manual to the Glider Flying Handbook, they didn't carry over all the information. And all of the written test questions come from this book. And what happens is people are reading the Glider Flying Handbook, which is the modern one, and you should be using it. But there's a lot of information of how to do some of the math problems and different techniques and things you should know that did not get translated over to the Glider Flying Handbook. On top of that, we just hand people a book and we say, go read this, come back when you're done. Do you know of any school in the world that just hands you a book and says, tell us when you're done, and then you'll know everything you need to know? We wouldn't have schools or teachers or anything like that if all it was just handing you a book and saying, go have fun, tell us when you've finished reading it cover to cover. No, you need a teacher to explain things, to show things, and emphasize the points that you're expected to know. Because remember, the Glider Flying Handbook is supposed to be good for student pilots learning to initially fly, private pilots who are making sure they're getting ready for check rides, and for their continued knowledge, it needs to cover the knowledge for commercial pilots and flight instructors. So this book, by definition, has to cover a huge amount of information, more than you need to know at whichever flying level you start at. And so you don't know if the information you're reading is geared towards a new student pilot or private pilot, or if it's geared towards flight instructors. And so there's actually too much information there. Now, what's the solution to this? Well, turns out the solution has been there the whole time. The airplane people figured this out 40 years ago, okay? Here are old VHS tapes from King schools and sporties that teach you how to fly airplanes. They go over all the knowledge you need, and they go over the test questions the FAA has for you. And it goes over how they'll ask those questions, how you set up math problems so that way you have an easy way to understand it. It'll show you what actual charts from the test look like. It'll show you how to do it. It's got pictures and videos of, they've got pictures and videos of real airplanes, and they show what it looks like in flight when you're using these things. For gliders, we just hand you a book and then we say, go have fun. And when I started flying gliders, I actually took my glider check ride before I took my private pilot airplane check ride. And so I studied what little glider information there was at the time, and it was confusing, and I wasn't exactly sure, and I did okay, and I passed my check ride, but I knew for a fact that it could have been a lot better. It could have been like what the airplane people have and what the airplane people have had for 40 years. It goes all the way back to VHS tapes in the 80s. Since then, the airplane people have first gone to CDs and then DVDs, and now all their videos are online. You watch a video that's focused on a subject, and then you answer questions based on the knowledge that you just learned. Holy cow, that sounds like a lesson. With gliders, we give you an entire encyclopedia of knowledge, and we say, go read it. And then we tell people to just find old questions that may or may not be relevant anymore, and to just practice questions until they feel ready enough to take the test. That's not a plan. That is chaos. And we lose a lot of people who want to fly gliders along the way because we don't give them an easy roadmap to follow. King schools boast that people that use their product have a 99.8% pass rate on their knowledge tests. And more importantly, the people who are using those systems actually take the knowledge test. There are so many people who know how to fly a glider, but they stop and never get their license because there's no organized system for actually helping them pass their knowledge test to get them to their check ride. Okay? It drives me nuts, and it's driven me nuts for 20 years. Now, there have been various attempts, and there are some really good flight manuals out there that'll give you practice questions and things like that. But again, we hand people these manuals and basically tell them to go have fun. So, for the longest time, I've wanted to help with this problem. That's why I created Glider Club. I've known that this problem has been there ever since I started flying gliders. And I realized I could not possibly have the time to teach everyone in my glider club as they came in everything they needed to know. And certainly I don't have the time to go and individually teach everyone in the country the things they need to know to fly gliders, to be safe, to pass their knowledge test, to pass their check ride, and to be a successful glider pilot. And so my question has always been, looking at those airplane people, why can't we have nice things? Why can't we have nice things as glider pilots? And so that's why I created Glider Club. So we can have nice things too, just like the airplane and the helicopter people have. If you've seen some of the videos recently, we're trying to teach the material that's going to be on your knowledge test and then show you those exact questions. Work through the example problems together, understand the regulations, understand the theory, and then work the exact same questions that you're going to see on your knowledge test. That's the level of knowledge at the private pilot, at the commercial pilot, at the flight instructor level that the FAA expects you to have. But there is a certain amount of knowledge you need to have in order to correctly and successfully answer those questions. Okay? And so my question has always been, why can't we have nice things? Well, let's make nice things. Let's make it better, not only for us today, but for future glider pilots who want to come in and enjoy this wonderful sport that you can fly for your entire life. But when we invite people in to our world and then just hand them a manual and say, go have fun, and not actually show how the knowledge that they are expected to demonstrate in the air is connected directly to what we want them to learn on the ground and the knowledge test they're supposed to take, people get confused, they get frustrated, and they leave before they achieve their flying goals. So going forward, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, which is to show people how, what level of knowledge the FAA expects them to have at every level, what the questions they should expect to see on their knowledge test, and how to answer them. There's plenty of channels on YouTube with great videos that are inspiration. You will see world-class pilots who are the equivalent of Olympic athletes, and they will do some amazing flights. And people look at that and they'll say, I want to do that too. I want to be like that. That is amazing. And that is great inspiration. They will be inspired to come and find a glider club, to join and to start on it. But we in the glider community need to give them that next step, that encouragement and the tools they need to be successful so they can accomplish and achieve their own goals. That's why I started Glider Club, because I'm tired of seeing people come into a wonderful sport, look at the terrible way that we instruct glider pilots, and then they naturally get frustrated and leave. So if you want to be part of this solution, please like and subscribe and share these videos with new glider pilots, people who are learning and trying to get better and trying to achieve their dreams and their goals. That's what Glider Club is here for, is to help people come in, learn to fly gliders, and to experience the magic of flying and soaring with the birds. It is incredible, and I want to make it better.